Well, hello. Welcome to our Assistive Technology for Math presentation. We are going to cover all of the things on the Assistive Technology checklist for math. And so, as you can see, there's quite a few things listed. And by the end of this session, I just want to make sure you have a picture in your head, um, or at least know where to refer to if you need some ideas about where to get some of these items to conduct an assistive technology trial with your students. Um, yeah, and just where to get started. So as you come back and use these slides, all you have to do is click on any of these links, and you'll be brought right to the slide that has to do with that particular tool. So you don't have to roam around the slideshow a bunch. You can use this kind of as your table of contents. So just a note, to be sure to remember the set process as you're doing this. Um, so these are kind of the math tasks from page 14 of the checklist that your students might be struggling with. And we know it's just important to match that tool to the student's needs, the task they need to complete, and their current and future environment expectations. So just keep that in mind. Keep all these things in mind as you're searching for that tool, um, because you want to make sure you're trying to match those up correctly. So one of the first things on our list is graph paper, kind of an oldie but goodie. And as long as you have access to a printer, you're never going to run out of the right size graph paper, as long as you use this particular template. So just click on this template and you can print small to large squares. You can print them light, with a light outline or with a really dark outline. And then you can go ahead and customize these further if your student needs something even different. So enjoy that graph paper. Next on our list is on-screen calculators. So no matter what device your student is using, there is a freely available on-screen keyboard for them. So on the Windows computer, if you click this link here, you can see how to use the Windows on-screen keyboard. And keep in mind, some of these options I feel like are kind of hidden. And that goes for all of these calculators. On-screen calculators, I think I said keyboards, but I certainly meant calculators. But there are options for scientific calculator within there, for calculating dates and for converting units of measurement. So it's not just your basic calculator anymore for adding and subtracting. You can do a lot more with those on-screen calculators. There is one available for the Chromebook too. If it doesn't show up right away in your launcher down below where you get to most of those applications, just search for it. Type in the word calculator in the search bar, and it will then show up for you. On a Mac computer, you're just going to go to your Finder applications and you'll find calculator. If you want to know how to add that calculator to your notifications tab so that it's just always right there for you, there's a quick little video here on how to do that. So that's kind of nice. And then again, on the iPad, keep in mind that that free calculator app, you also have the option to switch between scientific or fractions, and you can even change the color scheme in case students need a different contrast, right, in order to view those numbers better. So those are our on-screen calculators. Let's go on And next on our list is a scanning calculator. So if you have a student who's using a switch to access their environment, the computer, that sort of thing, you're going to want a scanning calculator. And so if you have a student who's using a Windows computer, they could use the Windows calculator that we just talked about, but they're going to need to also use the on-screen keyboard that comes with the Windows machine. So there's a built-in on-screen keyboard within accessibility, within the accessibility setting that you're going to turn on, and then you're going to turn on scanning on that on-screen keyboard. And then that on-screen keyboard will enter, is able to enter those numbers into the calculator itself, if that makes sense. So you're going to have your on-screen keyboard on one side or maybe down below, and then you're going to have your calculator up above, and the student will be able to scan through the on-screen keyboard. And those keyboard keystrokes will then enter numbers and symbols into that calculator. So that's how that can work for Windows users. For iPad users, there's a really nice talking calculator app, and that is Switch accessible. So if you just click on that button there, you'll be able to find out some more about that talking calculator. Again, it's talking and it's scanning, and it has a really nice layout to it. Okay, so we'll keep going here. Next on our list is an alternative keyboard. So on-screen keyboards are certainly one type of alternative keyboards. But this reminds me also of some things that you can do on the iPad to make it easier for students to use the numbers on the iPad. So one thing they can use is an app called Numpad. And again, if you click that link, you can learn some more about it. But this is going to give you a keyboard that's just all numbers, and it's laid out really simple, so students aren't distracted by all the extra keys around there. The other thing is it stays open. So as soon as they enter one number, it's not going to close and have them have to reopen that number keyboard again. So Numpad is nice. If you need something a little bit more customizable, Super Keys is really great. So this gives students larger targets. So those students with fine motor issues who can't target all the numbers on the screen, it kind of divides the numbers up. So the students are either just accessing numbers 1 through 5 or 6 through 10, or 6 through 9, I think. I believe that's the way that's broken up. So those are a couple of other options. Of course, any alternative keyboard that your student's already using for writing, they will probably also need to utilize for math. Another old school one is just a number line, right? And so these can be just really low-tech number lines that are written across the top of a paper, or laminated on a student's desk. But the 917 Lending Library has a couple other number lines that are available for trial, that actually have moving parts. So students can move the numbers as they're counting. So there's a smaller number line that goes up to 10, and then there's a really long number line. It's about the size of a yardstick, and that one goes up to the number 30. So you have a couple of options of things you can check out from the 917 Lending Library. So another simple AT tool would just be enlarged math worksheets. It's amazing what having some extra white space around problems can do for students. And then just remember, besides enlarging those on a copier, that you could certainly always also use Zoom features on a digital worksheet. And this is especially important if you are doing some distance learning with your students. And if you are showing them a worksheet, it's a really good idea to zoom in right on so that all they see is maybe one problem at a time. Um, Again, just something that'll help keep them from being distracted and focus on what they're working on. Um, Another tool we have here is the Coinulator. So this is available for you to check out if you need to do a trial with it from the Pacer Simon Technology Center. It's available for purchase from a company called Special Needs. It's around $40, but it does just what you would think it would do. You press a quarter, it's going to add 25 cents. You press a dime, it's going to add 10 cents. You press the dollar, it'll add a dollar. And then there's some voice output with it as well. So if students kind of need some help learning how all of that goes, adding up the coins, that's a nice option. An alternative to the Coinulator would be an iPad app called the Visual Currency Calculator. And again, there's a link here so you can find out some more about that. But it does the same thing as this Coinulator, only it's an iPad app. There is another one, which is a Chrome app. So if your students are using Chromebooks, they can use something called Money Pieces. So this doesn't actually do the calculating for students, but it gives them excellent visuals. And I think I'm going to just go out and show you this one. This is one that I've already added to Chrome. So I'm going to go up to my apps and I'm going to choose Money Pieces here. And I'm just going to move this up here so you can see it. So you can see you have all your coins over here on the side and your dollar bill. So you can move these over. You see there's 1 square for a penny. If I add a nickel, I get 5 squares, a dime, 10 squares, a quarter, 25, 50-cent piece has 50, and my dollar has 100. So again, a nice way to kind of visualize that. But you can also, maybe you don't want all those squares there. So you just hit this one and the squares go away and they look a little bit more realistic. So you can do all sorts of things. Here's where students could start adding and subtracting here. They can also flip their coins. So maybe they want to see the back of the penny. They can flip it. You can do some drawing if you want as well. So just some really nice money manipulatives there. And that's called Money Pieces. And that's going to be pushed to all 917 student Chromebooks. So any student who logs into Chrome should be able to see that from their apps menu. Let me bring my presentation back up here. Sorry about that. I must have closed it out altogether by accident. So we were talking about the Coinulator. Next up on our slides here are digital math concept manipulatives is what it's called. So essentially, if you have a student who is working remotely or they just do better work on the computer, you might list that they need some digital math concept manipulatives. And just like the app that I just showed you, all of these here are available for free on any device. There's a nice math clock, number frames, number pieces, pattern shapes, number line, number rack is kind of like an abacus. Fractions, there's some cool math vocabulary cards, and then the one I just showed you, those money pieces. So these are all available if you click this link, the Math Learning Center. And so they're available both, like I said, iPad apps, Chromebook apps, or just on the web browser. You can click and go out to the browser and use those manipulatives. So kind of fun stuff. Let's keep going on here. Our next section is portable math processor or digital graph paper. And so all of these really fall also into that category of speech recognition, just because you can use that speech recognition within each of these tools. So within Google Docs, there is a way to insert equations. So if we do that, I'm just going to X out of here a minute. Let's just open up a Google Doc. So if you go up and say insert, there is an equation option there. And that gives you a brand new toolbar. And so as you click on those, you now have all sorts of new math symbols that you can use. Pretty much anything that you need should be there. If it's not, however, if you're not finding enough just within that, there are a couple of other options. There's something called Math Share that's free and now works on tablets as well. So either you as the teacher or the student can create a Math Share account. And there's a video of how all that works. And then there's also called something called Math Type. And that works as an add-on to Microsoft products for both Windows or Mac computer users. And that gives you more, I would say, symbols and equation writing power than just your Google Doc insert equation. So Math Type is great. And then if you need even more, there's a great program from TextHelp called Equatio. And you can sign up for a free trial and do that with your students. And there's a video that kind of introduces you to what Equatio is. Equatio has built-in word prediction, or they actually call it formula prediction, which can be really nice for students so that they don't have to type in every single symbol and all of that. They can also use a math workspace to do some drawings and manipulate that way. So Equatio has lots of options, and including speech recognition that's trained especially for math. And so if the student says 5x times 10 to the fourth power, it's going to know what that means, and it's going to put the exponents in the right place. So on next here to, oops, I went backwards instead of forward. Next on our list was talking watches or clocks. And so here's just a few examples of those. And all of these are available from the Pacer-Simon Tech Center. You can contact any of your 917 team representatives and we can check those out for you if that's something you're interested in doing a trial with. And then we have tactile and talking measuring devices. And so there is a really, I guess I would first say that you should consult with your student's blind visually impaired teacher for the best way to get these tools. But if you're just looking for kind of some examples and what they look like, there's a nice link here that's going to take you out to some instructions and um, give you a few examples here of measuring tools. So we have those. Let's go to our next one. So the next one is just adapted math paper. And we already talked about graph paper, but this could be an additional step beyond just graph paper, something where the teacher actually draws boxes, only the boxes that the student needs to fill in each step of the problem. Maybe they just highlight boxes on the graph paper. But again, it's giving students some extra prompts about how to line up those problems and what steps to take. And I would just note on that be sure you explain how and why you're adapting the paper within the IEP so that as the student transitions to the next team, that next team knows how to best accommodate that student. So if all you write down is adapted math paper, they aren't going to know, they're not going to know how to help that student. So just be sure you're a little bit more specific once you kind of find the method that works best for that student. And then we have a category called large key or talking calculators. So again, I would encourage you to talk with the student's BVI teacher for the best place to get those tools. But again, there's also a website here with some pictures and explanations of some of those options for those tools. And then along the same lines, just adapted math tools in general. So your protractor and compasses. And again, this MaxiAid site has those for sale, but your blind, visually impaired teacher may also be able to get you those for your student from another source. And that is it in a nutshell. Lots of links there for you to explore exactly the tools that are specific to the students that you serve. And if you have any questions, just be sure to reach out to me. All right, take care, everybody.